Hey there, Cinemaster fans. Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. Our movie starts with a very strange event. We see a planet shattering and filling with heat as if it's being destroyed. Then, we see a strange glowing meteor heading toward Earth. It passes by a bay in Japan, freezing it completely. It flies over the pyramids in Giza, Egypt, turning the weather icy all of a sudden. It then passes over Los Angeles, California, cutting off all electricity and devices. News of these events spreads on TV, and we see Reed and Susan watching from the airport. They're preparing for their wedding, which, unfortunately, has become a major media event. The whole world is interested in attending and watching them prepare for their wedding, which has sadly become a significant media spectacle. This irritates Susan a bit, as she wonders where their private life has gone. But Reed tries to calm her down, assuring her that everything will be fine and they'll live well. Later, an employee informs them that the VIP seats are all taken, so they'll have to settle for economy seats. Reed agrees, and they decide to squeeze into the plane. Johnny decides to follow them flying. They arrive at the Fantastic Four headquarters, where Susan is very busy with the wedding. But it seems Reed isn't as interested because he's focused on his work. Apparently, he's invented something strange, which we'll find out about later. We also learn that Reed has secretly been researching the recent events without Susan knowing, so as not to stress her further. He's discussing it with Johnny, but this turns out to be a bad idea because Johnny uses the secret to blackmail Reed into throwing him a bachelor party. Eventually, Reed agrees. Next, we see Victor waking up from his frozen state. Then, we go to the party, where everyone is happy. The women flock around Reed. Meanwhile, General Hager, accompanied by 2 assistants, heads to the Fantastic Four building, only to find it empty. He asks for Reed, but Susan meets him instead, as Reed isn't there. The general tells her to take him to Reed immediately. At that moment, Reed is having fun with the women, dancing and using his stretching abilities to impress the crowd. But then the general and Susan walk in. Susan is, of course, very upset to find a girl in Reed's arms. Reed tries to explain the situation. In the end, the general takes Reed aside and tells him something important is happening. They go to a restaurant, where the general explains that the object seen flying through the sky isn't a meteor. It's something they can't identify, and they need Reed's help. The general shows him photos of the object, which appears to be strange and filled with immense energy. Additionally, mysterious craters have started appearing in the ground in various locations. Reed suggests building a sensor device to pinpoint the object's exact location. The general agrees and urges Reed to start working on it immediately. But Reed refuses, saying he has a wedding on Saturday and can't miss it. Susan is thrilled that, for the first time, Reed is prioritizing their life over work. The general leaves with one of his assistants, and Johnny tries to flirt with her but fails. Later, we see someone helping Victor escape from his containment. As soon as Victor is free, he kills his helper as a thank you. We then learn that Reed has secretly started working on the sensor device without Susan knowing. We see Ben working on the device too, while Reed keeps it hidden from Susan. The wedding day arrives, and the entire country is focused on the event. But Susan is very anxious, wondering how they can live like this. Even if the day goes smoothly, how will they build a family amidst all the chaos, enemies, monsters, and people constantly watching them? Alicia, Ben's girlfriend, tries to reassure her. Ben rushes to Reed saying, "There's only an hour left until the wedding and you're still working on your device." Reed replies, "Just one more moment and the device will be ready." He activates the device, only to realize he's late for the wedding. He collapses from the shock, and Ben drags him away to get ready quickly. Meanwhile, Victor is investigating the strange being, seemingly one step ahead of Reed. We see Susan in her wedding dress, with Johnny trying not to be too annoying. He jokes that the priest will be late. He takes her by the hand to start the ceremony. As they stand together and the officiant begins to speak, a small device connected to the sensor gives off a signal indicating something strange is happening. Reed asks the officiant to hurry up, which annoys Susan a bit, but her irritation vanishes when something far more important happens. The strange being crashes their wedding, cutting off all power sources. Even the helicopter filming the wedding loses control and crashes toward the guests. Of course, the Fantastic Four save the day. The being appears and Johnny chases after. A fast, intense, and challenging pursuit ensues. In the end, Johnny catches up to it, but surprisingly, the being grabs him instead. It takes him into outer space and drops him from above. Johnny lands in the Arabian desert. It becomes clear that the being was merely a servant following orders from an unseen master. Johnny explains what happened to his team. Reed believes the being came to destroy the sensor device, knowing they were tracking it and wanting to prevent that. Reed realizes they must stay one step ahead, though he doesn't yet know how. A heated argument erupts between Susan and Reed over their ruined day. Johnny struggles with his powers, unable to control them as before. He decides to jump off a building, hoping his abilities won't fail him, but he falls. Susan rushes to him, and when she touches him, their powers switch. She gains Johnny's fire abilities and starts flying and burning. Reed tries to help but doesn't know what to do. Eventually, Susan manages to stop the fire, but not without causing chaos. Back at the lab, they realize Johnny can now transfer his powers to anyone he touches. Ben jokingly tries it, leading to a hilarious scene before quickly switching back. Reed decides Johnny must be isolated because the situation is too dangerous. Later, we see Susan watching the news, and she talks about the destruction of her joy and how life is cursed for them, which bothers her a lot. She tells Reed about her problem and how they can live after this, even if today passes. Reed eventually tells her that he is ready for them to live a normal life after completing this mission and discovering what this being is. He plans to work as a professor at any college and live a life of building a family. However, this would negatively affect Ben and Johnny. Johnny overhears them and becomes very upset. At this point, we see the supernatural being in an icy location, and it is clear that Victor has managed to locate it and goes to talk to it. More precisely, he welcomes it and tells it that if they unite, they can control the world. The being strikes him with its special power, slamming him into a wall. At the same time, Victor's body returns to its normal state. Meanwhile, Johnny goes to Ben and tells him what he overheard from Reed and Susan's conversation. Naturally, they are very upset because the matter concerns all of them, not just the two of them. But then Reed appears and informs them of a new disaster. He tells them that upon reviewing what the being has been doing, he realized that the sequence of its actions resembles the beginning of a plan to destroy and explode the planet. Now, they are in extreme danger. However, there is an important point regarding the sequence. These actions follow a certain system, a mathematical formula, and a specific area. This allows them to determine the next location. Without delay, they inform the general and take helicopters to the site in London, near Big Ben. There, a strange hole begins to form in the water, similar to the previous one. Suddenly, a wave-like shock destroys the foundation of the place and wrecks the amusement ride there. Its wheel starts to fall, and Susan tries to hold it with her superpowers. From below, Ben supports her, and Reed helps from another side, urging people to evacuate quickly. Johnny spots the strange being and decides to chase it, but unfortunately, he collides with Reed, causing their powers to switch. This disrupts the ride's stability and Susan can no longer hold it. But at the last moment, Reed comes up with an idea and tells Ben if he can lift the wheel slightly higher and push it further, Reed can use his firepower to weld the wheel's axis. The mission succeeds. However, the general is very annoyed by what happened, accusing them of being chaotic, and questioning how such issues could arise during a live mission. Suddenly, they notice that the river has dried up. Since the general is frustrated, he decides to involve Victor. Ben is furious because Victor was the villain in the first movie. But the general explains that Victor surrendered himself to them, claiming to have information about the being and offering to help. He has extended a hand and awaits their cooperation. At this point, we see that Victor had recorded a video of the incident between him and the being. This video provides a clear view of the being, allowing them to deduce that its power emanates from the board it rides on. Thus, the plan must focus on separating it from this board. Later, we see Johnny and Ben sitting together, upset about what happened and the idea that Reed and Susan want to separate from the group. Meanwhile, Reed is at his wit's end. The whole world expects something from him, and he doesn't even know what it is. Susan tries to calm him down with romantic words, saying they have become one and their heartbeats are identical. Suddenly, he gets an idea about the pulse. There must be a specific pulse controlling the device. If they can interrupt this pulse, they can separate the being from the board. He begins working on a device that can deliver a shock to stop the pulse for a few seconds. At the same time, Victor is working on a different device, but no one knows what it is. Susan catches him but can't find anything incriminating, so she leaves. Later, Johnny tries to flirt with the military woman again, but she tells him she doesn't see any bad boy appeal in him. She only sees someone who almost destroyed his team with his recklessness and irresponsible actions. They then head to the location of the next hole, which they were able to pinpoint. There, Reed prepares to deploy his device, but the general expresses his lack of trust in Reed, mocking him. Reed asserts himself, reminding the general that he is one of the world's leading scientists and a member of the Fantastic Four. Ultimately, Reed proceeds with his plan. Each member of the Fantastic Four places a device at a part of the hole, waiting for the strange being to arrive. Everyone activates their devices except Susan, who is surprised by the being's sudden arrival. She tries to stop it with her force field, but it easily penetrates it. She asks it what it wants and why it aims to destroy Earth. It tells her it is forced to do so, that it has no choice, and that it is not the real threat. At this moment, the general gathers his forces and launches the first missiles toward the being. However, the being protects Susan and absorbs the missiles. While it is busy deflecting the missiles, Susan manages to activate the last device. They succeed in interrupting its pulse and separating it from the board. Military forces then arrive and take the being to what appears to be a torture facility in Siberia. The general tells Reed that their role is over and that the rest is up to them. The team is locked in one room while the being is taken to another for interrogation. Its board is sent elsewhere. Susan tells the team that the being claimed it was not the villain and that it must be telling the truth because it saved her life. Reed agrees they need to talk to the being, but the general won't allow it. Thus, they decide to sneak in. Johnny creates a distraction, engaging the guard in conversation while the others manage to break out and see what is happening to the being. Meanwhile, Victor requests to speak with the general. The general pauses everything for a 5-minute break and steps out. This gives Susan the opportunity to speak with the being. It tells her that it is not the true villain and that the real threat is named Galactus, a being that consumes planets to survive. It serves Galactus in exchange for sparing its planet and people. It insists it has no choice, but Susan tells it there is always a choice, delivering a speech filled with human compassion. Later, we see the general speaking with Victor, who tells him, "I have revoked the agreement on my end. Now it's your move," because he wanted to experiment on the board. And indeed, he takes him there. As soon as he enters, he says to him, "General, sometimes Dredd is right and destroys everyone." This is when they decide to break their silence because they need to catch that creature now. Ben heads to the guard to start the operation. At that moment, we see Victor putting on his armor again and wearing the device he crafted, which apparently creates an artificial pulse suitable for the board so they can synchronize with each other. As soon as he mounts it, he feels an incredible surge of energy. They try to stop him with bullets, but with a single touch, he shatters them. Then Victor unleashes all the energy inside him, blowing up a large part of the place. A giant rock crashes into Ben, and a massive Reed is behind him. They run and discover that the device has been taken. They realize that Victor has turned rogue. Now they need to chase him, but it's a very difficult task. At this point, Reed reveals one of his inventions, which turns out to be a vehicle he had built. He orders it via the device he has, and the Fantastic Four set out, taking the nearby creature with them. They encounter the girl Johnny had been trying to impress. He speaks to her honestly, saying that they now need to protect the world. She believes them and lets them go. They quickly climb the stairs to the roof. The vehicle Reed had called arrives. It's the Fantastic Four's vehicle with 4 seats, so the creature takes Johnny's place. Johnny flies beside them. We learn that Victor is heading to China, so they follow him. At this moment, the creature decides to talk to Susan. He tells her his name is Norrin. He was probably shy about his name, but okay. He begins to tell her that they really need to save the world. Then the first confrontation with Victor occurs, with Johnny who throws him into the sea. But Victor manages to draw water from the sea, extinguishing Johnny's fire instantly. Reed believes they need to split up. He manages to separate his aircraft into 3 parts, each heading in a different direction to confuse Victor. They succeed in surrounding him, but Victor retaliates, throwing them all into the city. At this point, Victor creates an arrow out of nothing and throws it at Norrin, but Susan decides to protect him. The arrow pierces her body because it was stronger than her shield, and she falls unconscious. The bigger disaster is that Galactus has begun his attack on Earth, with only minutes left before he consumes the planet. Reed says, "This means we need to set aside our emotions and act now." He thinks and realizes that Victor must have a device to send pulses to control the board. What they need now is to stop that device. But how, when each of them is weaker than him? We need to unite as one force. At this point, Johnny adds, "Why not become one body as well?" They put their hands together, allowing Johnny to absorb all their powers and become the bearer of all 4 powers combined. He confronts Victor, flying with fire, and strikes him with a powerful punch, launching him away. A massive battle ensues between them, with blows exchanged until, finally, using his elastic ability, Reed wraps around Victor's body, striking him with Ben's powerful punches and igniting him with intense heat, until the device in Victor's hand malfunctions and the board falls. Ben, in his normal form, climbs the scaffolding and delivers the final blow to Victor, disarming him and throwing him into the sea. At this moment, Galactus enters Earth's atmosphere, and it seems like everything is over. But here, Norrin feels the need to act. He summons the shield with the pulses he has and mounts it, using a large portion of his power to bring Susan back to life. Then he tells Dredd, "Tell her you were right. In the end, it was just our choice." He flies at full speed toward Galactus, and when he feels the air is too strong for him, he finds Johnny behind him, supporting him, until he enters Galactus's core. But it seems like it's all over. The places begin to collapse, and the streets are destroyed. Galactus has arrived, and we are too late. But no, Norin reaches Galactus's core and says, I will no longer serve you, and this will be the end for both of us. He gathers all the power within him and the board, exploding himself inside Galactus's core. Both of them explode with a blinding light that spreads across the Earth. Afterward, energy returns to all the places, and Susan wakes up, asking, did I miss anything? Then they begin to celebrate and embrace, realizing that life is good. They decide that this team cannot be separated because without their unity, the ending wouldn't have been so happy. This doesn't stop Susan and Reed from getting married and living a normal life. But they are not ready for a big wedding. They decide to marry quietly in China. As they stand before the marriage officiant, just as he begins to speak, Reed's device goes off again. But it's fine. Susan is now up to the responsibility and the situation. She asks the officiant, could you summarize, please? He starts from the middle of the speech, but Reed interrupts, so the officiant says, all right, just put the ring on her finger. They kiss, and they board their plane to take off. But before boarding, Susan decides to throw the bouquet. Among the girls catching the bouquet is the military woman Johnny had been trying to impress. She is excited and eagerly waiting for the bouquet. But Johnny isn't the marrying type, so he burns it in the air. They board the plane and take off, forming the Fantastic Four symbol in the sky. And that was the end of the movie. Thank you for watching. Don't Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie begins in Free City with a man descending from the sky wearing sunglasses. We learn that in this city, anyone wearing sunglasses possesses superpowers. These individuals don't care about others and do whatever they want because the laws don't apply to them. We see this man shooting at the police and destroying their cars, then casually escaping as no one can do anything to stop them. We are then introduced to an ordinary man named Guy, who wakes up in the morning to start his routine job at the bank. He always wears the same outfit, and despite living in a city full of crime, he loves his city. He buys the same coffee every day and meets his best friend Buddy, who works as a security guard at the bank where Guy is employed. The two witness a robbery in progress but act normally since this happens daily. Guy is always cheerful despite seeing so much crime around him. He believes he has everything in life except for one thing, the love of his life. He thought he'd never find someone he truly loves. Suddenly, criminals break into the bank, and Buddy, the security guard who was supposed to act, simply drops his weapon and lies on the ground with Guy. They chat while waiting for the robbery to end. Guy describes his dream girl to Buddy. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, we meet a woman named Molotov, wearing sunglasses, meaning she's a superhero. She talks to someone about a map she wants, takes it from him, kills him effortlessly, and walks through the city to her next destination. Guy and Buddy finish their work and happen to see Molotov. Guy is mesmerized by her beauty and freezes in place, telling Buddy, "That's my dream girl." Guy decides to approach her, but Buddy tries to stop him, saying, "She's wearing sunglasses. People like her don't talk to ordinary folks." But Guy insists on trying. As he crosses the street, a train hits him and he disappears. We then discover that Free City and this world are just a game played by a girl named Millie, who created the character Molotov to look exactly like her. Millie has to log off the game because the cafe she's in is closing. The next day in the game, Guy wakes up to start his routine, but this time, instead of ordering his usual coffee, he asks for a cappuccino as a change. Everyone around him is surprised and stares at him. Feeling uneasy, he tells the waiter he wants his regular coffee. At the bank, the same gang arrives to rob it again. Guy sees the woman he's infatuated with crossing the street. Buddy reminds him that he tried talking to her yesterday but failed, saying you can't talk to people wearing sunglasses. Guy decides to confront one of the robbers and asks for his sunglasses. A real-life girl is playing as this robber. When Guy tries to take the sunglasses, the robber punches him, knocking him down. But Guy doesn't give up. He manages to kill the robber with their weapon and takes the sunglasses, increasing his chances of talking to Molotov. When Guy puts on the sunglasses, he sees life completely differently, with massive signs and labels everywhere. He notices a first aid kit on the ground, but when he removes the sunglasses, it disappears. Touching the kit heals him completely, including the injury from the robber. He walks around the city to explore this new world and sees a boy who dies in an accident. After the boy's death, the money he had floats in the air, and Guy collects it, surprised to see his bank balance increase. Meanwhile, in the real world, we meet a man named Keys, who works at a company called Tsunami, the creators of Free City. We learn there's a glitch in the game caused by Guy, because Guy is a non-playable character, NPC, and not controlled by any player. Keys tries to access the game's code to delete Guy, but strangely, he can't find Guy on the game's servers. He shares this with his colleague Mouser, who suggests that someone might have hacked the game. However, Keys is certain that's not the case. They decide to enter the game with new characters to talk to Guy. At that moment, Guy is buying new shoes and wants to enter a place Molotov had gone to. Keys and Mouser arrive in a police car and speak to him, asking him to reveal his true identity so they can delete him from the game. Guy doesn't understand their words and they think he's lying. They try to shoot him, but Guy escapes, hiding in a construction site. They follow him there, attempting to kill him. Guy discovers he has a new superpower in his shoes, allowing him to jump 3 times high. He initially struggles to use this power but eventually makes a high jump, landing on top of the building. Keys and Mouser, being game developers, modify the construction site to add stairs for themselves. Guy runs across a suspended bridge, trying to grab a hanging rope, but fails and falls. He activates a shock-absorbing ability, creating a bubble. That cushions his fall. He lands safely on the ground, thinking he's escaped. But Keys and Mouser hit him with their car, sending him flying. They assume they've killed him, but Keys notices the NPC count in the game hasn't decreased, meaning Guy is still alive. Keys seems unhappy working for this company, especially under its boss, Antoine. We flash back to 6 years earlier, learning that Keys and Millie worked together on a game called Life Itself, which had a concept similar to Free City. The two were in an interview discussing their game. Millie developed the AI while Keys coded the game. Antoine was supposed to buy their game's design. Millie is revealed to be the real-life version of Molotov, the character Guy is infatuated with. Returning to the present, Keys goes back to his home. He is surprised to find Millie at his house. Millie was blaming him for working at Antoine's company because it turned out that Antoine had stolen the game's programming from Keys and Millie and didn't pay them any money. However, Keys worked for him because he convinced himself that Antoine didn't steal anything from them, thinking it was just a coincidence of ideas. But Millie told him otherwise, saying he stole their idea in programming, changed some details, and turned it into a silly game. She asked, "How can you work for his company? I want you to help me so we can take revenge on him." She also said, "I found evidence in the game that will help us defeat Antoine." But Keys refused to help her because he didn't want to risk losing his job. So she had no choice but to continue her mission alone. The next day when he woke up, he promised himself that everything would change that day. He decided to wear something different this time. Meanwhile, she was playing as her character, Molotov, and wanted to go to the castle that was marked on the map she had taken earlier because there was a videotape she wanted. When she reached the castle, she saw that the place was heavily guarded. Suddenly, Guy arrived next to her. She got nervous, knocked him down, and asked, "Who are you?" He replied, "I was watching you from the train because I wanted to get to know you." Suddenly, the guards started attacking them. A fierce exchange of fire broke out between Millie and the guards. Afterward, Millie pulled out a gun and opened a portal to another place. They entered the portal, escaping and reaching a different place, which turned out to be Millie's weapon storage. Guy was surprised to see all the weapons and motorcycles she had. Millie thought a real person was playing as Guy, and didn't know that Guy was just a secondary character in the game that no one played as. He told her that he wanted to help her with her mission. She replied, "You can't because your level in the game needs to be high. For example, I'm at level 195, but you're still at level 1. He asked how he could level up. Millie told him, "You complete missions in the game, kill people, and take their money." But Guy refused, saying, "I can't hurt innocent people." She was very surprised by his words and said, "If you don't want to kill people, you can help them, save them from robberies and killings, and steal weapons from bad people. That will increase your level in the game. When you reach level 100, I'll let you help me with my mission." Guy agreed and left. The next day, he went out into the street, put on the glasses, and started trying to complete missions. When he got shot and died, he woke up the next day as if nothing had happened. Guy began doing good deeds, helping people. At first, the people in the game didn't pay much attention to Guy because he was a secondary character, so they didn't consider him important. Amazingly, Guy started becoming famous in the real world. The people playing the game were surprised by him because he was doing good deeds, helping people, and outperforming older players of the game. They became curious to know who was playing as Guy. Guy's character became increasingly famous, and everyone was talking about him. Kids even started dressing like him. Guy kept leveling up, becoming skilled in combat, and eventually reached level 102. He then went to his friend Buddy, who scolded him for not coming to the bank for a long time. Guy told him about meeting the girl he liked and shared his experience with the glasses. He invited Buddy to join him so they could do missions together and live their lives to the fullest. Meanwhile, a criminal broke into the bank and pointed a gun at Guy, but Guy stopped him, took his gun, and took his glasses, offering them to Buddy. But Buddy refused, saying, "I'm comfortable living like this, drinking the same coffee every day, going to work and repeating the same day." Guy left him to his comfort. We then see Keys, who noticed that Guy's character was becoming more popular. Millie sent a message to Keys saying, "I tried entering the castle several times to get the tape, but I couldn't. I need your help." Keys thought about her words. Millie sneaked into the castle again. Keys agreed to help her and communicated with her through a headset. He manipulated the game settings, opened the door for her, and told her, "You have 5 minutes before any players notice you." Millie entered the garage and Keys told her, "The tape you're looking for is on the left." Millie took the tape and was leaving, but the alarm went off because she had stolen the tape. Guards appeared, and the tape fell from her hands. Millie hid and tried to fight them off but failed. The guards surrounded her, but Guy arrived, stormed the place, and easily defeated the guards. Millie was surprised to see him. She was about to take the tape when more guards appeared, dressed as samurais. Millie told Guy, "Try not to die," and the fight began. Keys was confused about who Millie was talking to because he couldn't see anyone with her in the game. Millie performed impressively, fighting fiercely. Guy was amazed by her strength and admired her even more. Someone almost killed him while he was distracted, but Guy handled it. Afterward, the two got on a motorcycle, and Millie shot the guards with her guns. But more guards arrived, so Guy drove and escaped with Millie. Millie failed to retrieve the tape. In the real world, Antoine arrived at his company and ordered the employees to improve the Free City game, release an update, and make Guy's character playable for users. He wanted to capitalize on the popularity that Guy's character had gained. Keys sat down, trying to figure out who Guy was. Back in the game, Guy took Millie to his storage, which was filled with cars and weapons, just like Millie's storage. He told her, "I followed your advice and leveled up." Millie was amazed that he had achieved all of that in such a short time. She asked, "Who are you in the real world and what do you do for work?" Guy didn't understand her question and kept saying, "My name is Guy, and I work at a bank." Millie thought he was joking. Guy took her out for ice cream, and they walked together. Millie began to admire Guy's genuine personality and wanted to meet him in the real world, still unaware that Guy was just a secondary character in the game. They grew closer, and Millie shared stories from her childhood. Guy confessed his love for her. Millie developed feelings for Guy, told him her real name, and said she wanted to meet him in the real world before leaving. Keys finally accessed Guy's programming and discovered the story behind his character. He went to meet Millie and told her, "You were right. Antoine stole the programming, the artificial intelligence we created, and my proof is the character Jay. Jay evolved and became a character that acts on its own through artificial intelligence, which is the AI we provided. The development Jay is undergoing is proof of my words." Millie is happy with Key's words and his discovery of the truth, but she is shocked to learn that Jay is not a real person and is just artificial intelligence because she had truly fallen for Jay. She tells him that she kissed Jay and feels upset that her first kiss turned out to be with a game character. Keys tells her there's a problem they're facing. Antoine has ordered the employees to update the game within 2 days, turning Jay from a secondary character into a playable one. This is a disaster because, in doing so, Jay's codes will change, and they won't have proof that Antoine stole their work. So they must act within the next 48 hours and prove Antoine stole their work without mentioning names. Millie decides to talk to Jay and explain the reality to him so he can save himself. Millie tries to explain to him that this world is just a computer game, and this entire city is a game. She tells him that she and the other characters are real people in the real world, but he is just code and not a real person. She shows him old footage of himself, and Jay feels upset and frustrated upon hearing this. Millie tries to explain that the game will be updated in 2 days, and he will disappear. Jay is distressed that all of this turned out to be an illusion, and that he and Millie are not alike. He walks away, deeply saddened, and runs to the beach, throwing a rock into the water. But here, he discovers that the sea is not real, and there is a barrier between him and the water. He returns to the street, screaming and telling people that this world is fake. Jay gets into an accident where 2 cars hit him. After recovering from his injury, he goes to Buddy's apartment. He asks Buddy what he would do if he found out he wasn't a real person. Buddy replies that he wouldn't be upset as long as he's happy and living his life the way he wants, with a friend and a job. Jay feels motivated after hearing this and asks for Buddy's help to break into the castle to retrieve the video and hand it over to Millie. Buddy agrees, and they go to the castle. They manage to enter easily because Buddy knows the castle guards and befriends them. Inside, they meet a player controlling a character who turns out to be a real person and a fan of Jay. Since Jay doesn't like harming people, he asks the player for the videotape. The player says he admires and loves Jay and gives him anything he wants, handing over the tape. This player in the real world was annoyed by his mother cleaning the apartment and making noise, so he yells in the game as well. Jay and Buddy are puzzled by his behavior and leave. Jay goes to Millie to give her the tape, but Millie wasn't on her computer at the time, so her avatar, Molotov Girl, was stationary and not moving. Jay becomes very worried about her and asks her to wake up. After a few seconds, Millie moves, and he gives her the tape, making her very happy. In the real world, people are increasingly influenced by Jay, deciding to do good missions instead of theft and murder missions, taking Jay as their role model. Antoine enters the company furious because players, out of their love for Jay, have ignored the game update and are playing the old version. The company's sales have dropped by 60%. He insists on restarting the game servers, turning Jay back into an unplayable character who doesn't act independently. Keys objects, saying this will destroy the first AI-driven character. Antoine says it doesn't matter as long as it's losing him money and orders the server restart. At the same time, Millie and Jay are watching the videotape, and Millie realizes the location in the video is a world she and Keys created for the game, Life itself. This proves Antoine stole their programming and placed it in Free City. When Jay sees the location, he tells her he's seen it before. Millie is surprised and asks where he saw it, but before Jay can speak, the game resets. Jay watches Millie, and all the characters freeze, feeling shocked and confused. He steps outside and sees everything being erased, including the entire game world. Millie is devastated. When the game restarts, Jay wakes up, but he doesn't remember anything because the programming has reset. He resumes his routine day as usual. Millie approaches him and tries to talk to him, but he doesn't remember her. She tries to remind him of the place he saw in the video, but Jay says he doesn't remember. Millie feels she's in trouble because the game data has been erased and no one remembers the location in the video except Jay. She tries to remind him of the memories they shared, but Jay still doesn't remember and walks away. Millie feels upset and believes there's no hope, but then Keys calls Millie and tells her not to worry. He says he reviewed Jay's programming and discovered that the reset didn't erase Jay's AI code, meaning the Jay she knows still exists. He just needs to remember his past experiences for his personality to evolve and return to how it was. Keys reviews Jay's behavior with her, explaining that he coded Jay's dream girl to match Millie's specifications. So when Jay saw her for the first time in Free City by chance, he felt different and started doing things he wasn't used to, just to talk to her, as if he were a real person thinking for himself. Keys assures her she can recreate the same connection with Jay as before. Millie decides to break into the bank where Jay works, takes him hostage, and puts on the sunglasses. She also kisses him, and at that moment, and on the same day, when a player enters the bank to rob it, he finds no one there. All the players in the street were surprised because there were no NPCs, non-player characters, as all the NPCs were with Guy at the cafe. The waiter started making drinks other than regular coffee, and the players were complaining about what was happening. Antoine was trying to understand the reason, and he discovered that Millie was in the game and often meeting Guy, and they were the reason behind everything. So he ordered Mouser to kill Millie and Guy in the game. But Mouser said the problem was that the army and police in the game were already with Guy and loved him. They were all celebrating the change. Antoine told him to change the game's codes and try to kill them by any means. Mouser executed the order and made cars and roads move to kill Millie and Guy. Additionally, the respawn feature was disabled, meaning that any player who dies would not come back to life. Mouser tried to kill them in every possible way. Guy was driving a car, trying to escape, and Keys intervened by creating a bridge on the road. Guy managed to escape. Antoine became furious and realized they were heading to the beach. He ordered his team to release a character named Dude, even though Dude's character was not yet complete. Meanwhile, Guy and Millie reached the beach, waiting for Keys to build them a bridge. Antoine talked to Keys, saying, "I understand what you're trying to do. You want to reach evidence that I stole your game." Keys played dumb, saying, "You didn't steal our game, so how could our game be inside your game?" Antoine admitted that he stole their game and told Keys he was fired. Keys didn't care and pressed a button to make the bridge appear. Mouser showed Antoine that the bridge was built in the game. Antoine got angrier and ordered him to shut down all the accounts in the game and kick out all the players. When Mouser did so, Millie's character started disappearing, But Guy remained because he was an NPC. Guy had to complete the mission alone. Keys, while leaving the company, made Guy appear in a live broadcast to the whole world. When Guy reached the game, everyone would know that Antoine was a thief who stole their game. Indeed, the entire world was watching Guy. But before Guy could move, Dude appeared and attacked him. Dude turned out to be a version of Guy but with muscles. Guy's glasses flew away, and Buddy appeared to defend Guy, but Dude easily defeated Buddy and beat Guy up badly. Everyone in the real world was upset for Guy. Dude then activated a deadly move to kill Guy, but Guy put on the glasses that had fallen earlier, activated Captain America's shield to block Dude's attack, and used Hulk's hand to punch Dude, sending him flying. People were amazed at what Guy did. Guy took a first aid kit to heal himself, then activated a lightsaber to fight Dude. Dude couldn't block the attack. Guy grabbed him and destroyed part of the place with him. But Dude was still strong, teleporting and dominating the fight. He was about to kill Guy, but Buddy got up and threw the glasses to Guy. Instead of wearing the glasses, Guy gave them to Dude. Dude got distracted by what he saw through the glasses, leaving Guy alone. Guy climbed the bridge. Antoine resorted to his last option, destroying the game's servers. When Keys found out, he sent a message to Millie, telling her to go to Tsunami Company and stop Antoine. Antoine destroyed the first server, causing the free city and its characters to start disappearing. Guy saw his dear friend Buddy die. Buddy told him, "This was the best day of my life, and it was an honor to know you." After that, Guy ran and crossed the barrier before being erased. He reached the Life Itself game and was amazed by its world. Antoine was about to destroy the last server, which would erase Guy, the Life Itself game, and the remaining characters. But Millie appeared just in time, offering him a deal to give her what was left of Free City with its characters. In return, he could keep the programming codes and profits he made from the game, letting her build a new game while he could continue creating sequels for Free City. Antoine agreed to the deal because he loved money. Later, it was revealed that Free City 2 sales were very low due to programming flaws and game issues. Antoine was arrested after his company went bankrupt, leaving him in debt. He had stolen the programming of Life Itself. Millie, Keys, and Mouser created a new game called Free Life, making it a peaceful game with missions focused on good deeds instead of theft and killing. The game achieved high sales, and many people bought it. Keys invited Millie out for coffee, but she declined and entered the game to meet Guy. She explained to him that she couldn't live in the game forever. Guy understood her perspective and supported her, confessing his love for her. He told her, "I understand that my feelings for you are just programming, but someone wrote that programming." Millie focused on Guy's words and remembered that Keys had written Guy's programming, making his dream girl based on her. She played a video of Keys saying, "I designed Guy to make you his dream girl, just as you are my dream girl. I added Guy's love for the sea, ice cream, and coffee, just like you love those things." Millie was happy and realized that Keys had loved her all along. She decided to go to the cafe where he was and confessed her love to him. Keys was overjoyed, and they kissed in the middle of the street. And that was the end of the movie. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See
The events start in a city 27 years later. We see two friends playing in the amusement park, having a great time together. Then a rude kid, like a piece of salty cheese, comes along and annoys them. Just as they were about to insult him, they saw their friend from afar, so they stopped and walked away. But his friends go and beat him up to teach him a lesson. But instead of calming down, they carry one of them to throw him into the sea, even putting a hat on him to make him look stylish for the fish, and then they throw him in the water. After a while, his friend goes down to search for him everywhere. He finds the clown, carries him, and saves him. But suddenly, he bites him, and he eats his heart. At that time, we see Mike, who has grown up. He hears about the incident on the radio and decides to go to the scene to find out what happened. He suspects the clown has returned. As soon as he arrives, he realizes that there's truly a disaster. Mike is the only one left from the group in the city. The rest of the group has scattered to different cities for work. He calls them one by one, asking them to come as soon as possible, but he doesn't tell them the reason. He waits for them to figure it out on their own. One of them, out of sheer fear, kills himself because of depression and fear of facing him again. We see Billy, who has grown up and become a world-famous writer and filmmaker, but he's married to a crazy woman. We also see Eddie, who's a diligent employee at an insurance company, specializing in accidents. He had an accident on the road. We see Richie, who, after hanging up with Mike, gets a stomachache from fear when he realizes the clown is out. He was working as a stand-up comedian, and his performance was about to start in seconds, so he had to focus before going on stage. We then see Ben, who used to be chubby, but has completely changed and become a stylish young man with his own global company. He had a lot of money, but Beverly, she got married, but her husband has mental health issues, poor thing. He made her life miserable. She answers Mike's call, who tells her, "We're all meeting tomorrow and you must be there." In the middle of the night, she packs her bag, and as she's about to leave, she's surprised by her husband. He beats her severely, but she hits him on the head, leaves the entire house, and walks away. We flash back to the time when Henry killed his father. As soon as he returned home after that incident, the authorities arrested him and put him in a mental institution. Returning to the present, he's still locked up and hasn't recovered. In fact, he's become even crazier. When he sees the clown's balloon, he gets excited and jumps around the window like a monkey. They forcefully take him back to his room, where he finds the same balloon. But as soon as he pops it, he's surprised by this ghost inside. He gets scared and backs away, but the ghost says, "Don't be afraid, I'm Jimmy, your old friend from the bully gang." He gives him a knife and says, "You must complete your mission." At night, we see the group meeting for the first time in 27 years. They ask about Stanley, unaware that he killed himself. They talk about their lives and where they've reached. Mike interrupts them saying, "We're not here to tell stories and laugh. There's a disaster. I've gathered you because the clown is back and plans to take revenge, a more severe revenge. We must finish him off and kill him before he goes back into the sewer. We're not waiting any longer." As soon as they leave the restaurant, they call Stanley to check on him. His wife tells them, unfortunately, Stanley died in the bathtub while bathing. They get extremely scared by what they hear and ask Mike to forget about the clown and live a normal life. Then they all leave him and walk away. Mike says to one of them, "I want to tell you something important. I've gathered information about the clown. If we use it correctly, we'll get rid of him forever." He takes him to the library where he lives and shows him an ancient artifact, saying, "The story started here. This artifact belongs to a tribe called Shankobo. Drink this magical water and you'll see everything clearly." Suddenly, he sees a ghost being trapped in the artifact, and we understand that this was the clown before he took on his current form. The only way to get rid of him is to recite the same spell and trap him again. The next day, the group gathers again, and Mike tells them how to get rid of the clown with the spell. But for the spell to work, each person must bring something valuable from their past. Beverly immediately goes to her old house, where all her memories are. She finds an old woman who bought the house, but she's hard of hearing. She goes to her old room, opens a hole in the wall, and finds a letter she had kept from Ben during their school days, which was very dear to her. Suddenly, the old lady transforms into a ghost, and we realize it's the clown trying to kill Beverly, but she escapes the house at the last moment. We then move to Richie, who arrives at the PlayStation shop he used to play at as a child, a place he loved deeply, sweet memories in it. He finds a coin he used to pay with in the past and takes it as it holds a special memory for him. Then he sits in the park, enjoying the fresh air and the beauty of nature. But the clown appears and ruins this happy moment for him. He says the clown starts approaching him, trying to scare and control him, but Rich escapes the place. We move to Billy, who takes his bicycle and returns to his old house. He reaches the storm drain where his brother George used to sit. When he looks inside, he sees George offering him a boat and saying, "Take me from here." He stretches out his hand and pulls the boat. Suddenly, children's hands grab him, but thankfully, he escapes and takes the boat. He sees a child standing and tries to advise him, saying, "If you hear voices coming from the sewers, never approach them no matter what." Eddie reaches the pharmacy where he used to get his medication and suddenly remembers his childhood. He hears his mother calling him. He enters the storage room and finds her tied up. He tries to untie her, saying, "Don't be afraid, I won't leave you no matter what." Suddenly, a ghost approaches him. He runs and leaves her behind. On the other side, Billy talks to Beverly about her work. He is surprised to see the skateboard of the child he advised earlier. He notices that the clown has written a message in blood, saying, "This child is mine, and I will kill him." Determined, Billy says to Beverly, "I must save this child at any cost," and leaves. Meanwhile, Eddie is washing his face after running away from them. He convinces himself that it's just a dream. Suddenly, Henry arrives, stabbing Eddie in the face with a knife. Eddie tricks him and stabs him in the stomach. Eddie runs out of the bathroom, shouting, "Help me! Help me! My mouth is torn," Beverly reassures him. Ben enters the bathroom and sees Henry jumping out of the window. Seeing him triggers a memory of the past when Henry carved into his stomach with a knife. Henry escapes. On the other side, Billy reaches the carnival and starts searching for the child everywhere. By coincidence, he sees the child entering a ride with a friend. Billy tries to save him before the clown appears. Thankfully, after much effort, he reaches the child's location, but a strong glass separates them. Suddenly, the clown appears and, unfortunately, eats the child in front of Billy. Meanwhile, Mike is in the library, Henry with a knife, trying to kill him. Just as Henry is about to stab him, Mike gives up, but Rich hits Henry on the head, killing him. The group reunites at the library and calls Billy to check on him. Billy tells them what happened and says, "I'm heading to the abandoned house at the well. I must kill the clown at any cost." Mike tells them, "We must catch up with him and perform the ritual in that abandoned house." Shortly after, Billy reaches the house, and before entering, the group catches up with him. They say, "We'll go in together." They enter quietly, their hearts filled with fear. Suddenly, Ben feels pain in his stomach, and blood starts pouring out. He sees a reflection in the mirror and realizes the clown is causing it. Then they see their friend Stan, who had committed suicide in the bathtub. He transforms into a spider and attacks them, but thankfully, they fend him off and get rid of him. After that, they head to the sewer pipe, getting closer to the clown's lair. Upon arrival, they begin the ritual to trap him. Mike sets the ancient artifacts on fire, and each of them offers a valuable item as a sacrifice. They hold hands, and Mike starts reciting the ritual. The clown begins to transform into lights and descends into the artifacts. Finally, Mike manages to trap him, but a red balloon appears, growing larger and larger until it bursts. The clown reappears, saying to Mike, "Your silly ritual failed. Your words won't work on me." The clown grows in size, becoming massive, and chases them with full force. The first person he wants revenge on is Mike, the one who performed the ritual. Suddenly, the group finds themselves in different locations, all terrifying places where they had traumatic experiences in the past. The clown does this to instill fear in their hearts and finish them off easily, but they overcome their fears and return to reality. At that moment, the clown grabs Mike and is about to kill him, but Rich throws a rock at his head, distracting him. He lifts the clown off the ground, expose him to the light, and suspend him on the air. Eddie throws a spear at him, hitting his head and feeling relieved to have finally defeated him. But to their surprise, the clown is still alive and stabs Eddie in the stomach. Before dying, Eddie tells his friends, "I want to tell you one last thing. Try to strangle him to weaken him." They agree to make the clown feel ridiculous and weak. Mike says, "You're just a clown." The clown gets upset and becomes increasingly distressed, his powers weakening and fading because they're no longer afraid of him. His size shrinks until he's tiny, and he becomes terrified of them. His heart beats like that of a frightened child. At that moment, they rip his heart out of his body, finishing him off completely, The clown's body begins to dissolve and disappear entirely. Afterward, they check on Eddie and rejoice that the clown is dead. Sadly, Eddie has passed away. The next day, they notice the scar on their hands has disappeared, realizing that the clown is gone forever and won't return after 27 years. They succeeded in freeing the town from his curse. The movie ends with this scene. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an update. See you in the next. The movie kicks off by introducing the story of Shark Boy, revealing that he wasn't always part shark, part human. Initially, he was known as a marine scientist due to his vast knowledge, which he gained while working alongside his father. They lived together in a research laboratory situated in the middle of the ocean. Shark Boy dedicated his time to studying all kinds of sharks, earning him the nickname from his father. His passion for sharks was undeniable. He fed them all their favorite foods, including sushi. He even named them, giving each one a unique identity: Udi, Miliko, Bigwig, and the massive Kraken. Kraken was the largest among them, appearing gentle but incredibly dangerous. If he caught you, escaping would be nearly impossible. One fateful day, a powerful storm struck, completely destroying the laboratory. Both Shark Boy and his father managed to survive, but they were separated, each ending up on a different boat, drifting apart in opposite directions. Left all alone at sea, Shark Boy felt terrified, hopeless, and utterly miserable. However, one of the sharks he had cared for and fed recognized him in the water. Understanding who he was, the shark signaled to the others not to harm him, remembering the kindness he had shown them. The sharks took him in, bringing him to their reef to protect him from the dangers of the ocean. From that moment on, the sharks became his new family, teaching him how to dive like them and gradually helping him adapt to their way of life. They nurtured him, making him stronger underwater. Over time, he developed gills, sharp claws, razor-like teeth, and even fins on his back, becoming more like them with each passing day. Years later, a boy named Max was out fishing when, suddenly, Shark Boy emerged from the water. The two quickly got acquainted, and Shark Boy shared that he had been traveling the world in search of his father, but had lost his way. Seeing his distress, Max decided to help and secretly took him home while his parents were caught up in an argument. Max filled the bathtub with water so that Shark Boy could survive outside the ocean. While they talked, Shark Boy told Max, "I come from a planet called Planet Drool. You can visit someday if you'd like." Suddenly, a mysterious girl named Lava Girl appeared. With fiery hair and a body resembling molten lava, she declared, "I need Shark Boy to come with me to Planet Drool. There's a serious problem that needs solving." Before leaving, she turned to Max and invited him to join them. Max hesitated and replied, "I'd love to, but I have school early in the morning." With that, Lava Girl and Shark Boy departed, and Max never saw them again. Later, in class, Max shared his summer story. He had written about his adventure, but his classmates didn't believe him. They mocked him, throwing paper at him. One of them scoffed, "We're supposed to share real stories." Max insisted, "This is a true story. It actually happened to me." A girl curiously asked, "Does Lava Girl have special powers?" Just then, the teacher entered the classroom and dismissed the story, stating, "There's no such thing as Lava Girl." But Max continued, "She can shoot lava from her hands." The teacher then asked the class, How many of you believe Max's story? Not a single student did. They all thought he was making it up. Linus, one of his classmates, challenged him. If it's real, then bring Shark Boy and Lava Girl to class tomorrow. Max hesitated and admitted, I don't know where they are or if they'll even come. After class, the teacher asked Max and Linus to stay behind. Turning to Linus first, he said, You'll lose points for what you did to Max, and I don't want to see you doing anything like that again. Then looking at Max, he added, You're surrounded by talented students. Try to connect with them, make friends, and let them like you. Forget about this dream world you keep living in. We're in reality, not on Planet Drool. After leaving the classroom, Max found himself face to face with Linus and his group. Linus smirked and said, How about we be friends in our imagination? You can be part of our group, and I won't even notice you. Loser. The taunt pushed Max to respond. Your drawings are weak and terrible. Enraged, Linus decided to chase after Max, determined to steal his dream journal, the book where Max wrote all his ideas, so he could rip it apart and make Max regret his words. Max bolted, but Linus and his friends ran after him. While fleeing, Max stumbled and fell, hurting his leg, giving Linus the perfect opportunity to snatch the journal. Holding it up, Linus sneered, I'll give it back to you tomorrow, but first I'll read everything inside and show everyone your ridiculous little drawings. That night, as Max slept, he was startled awake by a mysterious voice whispering, Open your eyes, Max. Feel us. Dream and imagine whatever you desire. Shaken, Max sat up, trying to make sense of what he just heard. Noticing footprints on the floor, he followed them to the kitchen. There he found a half-empty glass of milk and a piece of bread with a bite taken out of it. Examining the teeth marks closely, he muttered, Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Just then, their shadows flickered on the wall, but when he spun around to look, they had vanished. At that moment, his father entered the kitchen, assuming there was an intruder. He scolded Max before sending him back to bed. That night, Max dreamed of flying through space toward Planet Drool, only to wake up and realize he had fallen asleep. The next morning at breakfast, his father asked, What do you think about fixing the robot, Tobar? Max replied, Didn't you say it was impossible to fix when we last tried? His father walked away, leaving Max with his mother, who decided to drive him to school in an attempt to address his struggles there. As soon as Max arrived, the students resumed throwing paper at him, forcing him to run straight into the classroom to escape them. During the lesson, the teacher asked, When you see a tornado, where do you think it comes from? One student responded, When cold air collides with hot air, it creates circular patterns that form tornadoes. Another girl, who had enjoyed Max's story about Shark Boy and Lava Girl, chimed in, I had a dream about something similar. I saw Ice Girl and Dream Girl. Ice Girl's powers come from her diamond heart. But before she could continue, the teacher snapped her notebook shut and declared, No more fantasy stories. However, he was soon taken aback when he realized that nearly every student in class was excitedly discussing superheroes and imaginary adventures, just like Max had. At that moment, Max entered and saw the girl who had liked his story. Wanting to help, he said, Take my seat, because you sit under the fan and will catch a flu. Before he could process what was happening, the teacher raised an eyebrow and said, Are you flirting with my daughter? Shocked to discover she was his daughter, Max panicked, scrambled back to his seat, and kept his head down. Later, Max approached Linus and took back his notebook, only to find it completely ruined, filled with scribbles, and defaced by Linus. Furious, Max retaliated by smacking Linus with the notebook. Seeing this, the teacher immediately stepped in and said, Both of you will report to the principal's office with your guardians after class. Then, the storm grew fiercer, and the raging winds shattered the classroom windows. Out of nowhere, Shark Boy and Lava Girl burst into the room. The students were frozen in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. Lava Girl called out, Where's Max? We need him. The students pointed towards Max, who was crouched under his desk, trying to stay hidden. She approached him and said, Max, you have to come with us. Planet Drool is in danger. With the whole class watching in stunned silence, Max hesitantly followed them. They boarded a spaceship shaped like a shark and soon arrived at the very planet he had dreamed about. Once there, Shark Boy and Lava Girl explained that a villain named Electric was threatening to destroy their world. They pointed towards Electric's headquarters and told Max, "You possess powers stronger than all of ours combined. You are the only one who can stop him." They detailed their plan, saying, "Our journey begins by passing through the time tunnel, boarding the train of thoughts, swimming across the sea of awakening, and finally sliding through the rolling hills of the Sea of Whimsy." Their adventure kicked off as they boarded the train of the dead, their only way to reach Electric, who had been stealing Max's dreams. When they finally confronted Electric, he attacked them with powerful electric bolts. Shark Boy bravely tried to block them, but was electrocuted and collapsed. Lava Girl retaliated by hurling fire at him, but he only pretended to be hurt, deceiving her before striking her down with electricity as well. With both of them defeated, Electric commanded his electric minions to toss them into the graveyard of dreams. Just then, Electric's boss appeared and furiously scolded him, exclaiming, "You fool! How could you throw them, especially Max, into the graveyard of dreams? Don't you realize that if Max discovers he is the master of dreams, he will destroy us all? Retrieve them at once." Obeying his orders, Electric summoned his electric minions to bring them back. Meanwhile, Lava Girl turned to Max and said, "Max, you have to sit here, close your eyes, and dream of something that will free us from this place. And while you're at it, dream of something that makes me." Max suddenly remembered Tobar, the robot he and his father had tried to activate before. He concentrated and managed to bring Tobar to life. The robot looked at him and said, "Max, to dream the dreams that will save you, you must go to the giant Cupcake Planet." Tobar carried them to a train that transported them to the Cupcake and Milk Planet. When they arrived, they landed on an enormous cupcake. Shark Boy, who had always disliked milk, began drinking it eagerly, while Max indulged in the surrounding pools of chocolate. They then boarded a colossal ship that sailed across a vast sea of chocolate and milk. Their journey eventually led them to land, which turned out to be a giant cake. Exhausted, Max lay down and drifted into sleep, hoping to dream of a way to escape their situation. However, his dreams turned into nightmares. Nightmares that startled Lava Girl so much that she burned Max, making him awake. Before they could recover, Electric launched another attack with his army of electric minions. The minions electrocuted everyone, making it impossible for them to fight back. In desperation, Max imagined a banana boat to escape. They quickly boarded the banana boat and floated down a river of milk, knowing the electric minions couldn't follow without electrocuting themselves. While on the boat, they decided their only hope was to seek help from the Ice Goddess Queen to defeat Electric. Excited, Shark Boy exclaimed, "I've always dreamed of meeting the most beautiful girl in the dream world." Lava Girl overheard him, got jealous, and, in a fit of annoyance, burned him again. As they were on their way to the Ice Goddess Queen, Electric intercepted them, capturing them and taking them straight to his leader. To Max's shock, the leader turned out to be none other than Linus, his classmate. Frustrated, Max confronted Linus, exclaiming, "How could you leave the classroom just to invade my dreams?" Linus had gained control of Max's dream notebook and was using it against him. Linus locked Max and his friends in a cage, planning to use the notebook to dream up new traps for them. Annoyed by the constant loud music playing around them, Shark Boy let her frustration take over and bit through the bars of the cage, breaking them and freeing everyone. Max then faced Linus head-on, determined to take back his dream notebook. Each time Linus read a passage, it materialized into reality. Eventually, Max seized the notebook and decided to take advantage of it. To Lava Girl's delight, he created a high-speed, super-powered motorcycle just for her. Fascinated by the notebook, she attempted to explore more of its secrets and unlock her true abilities. However, as soon as she touched it, the notebook burned in her hands due to the immense heat radiating from her fire powers. Realizing time was running out, Shark Boy insisted, "We have only one shot left to save the Dream Planet. We must get to the Ice Goddess Queen immediately." Upon reaching the Queen, Max pleaded for her assistance. She, who was revealed to be Electric's own daughter and one of Max's classmates, agreed to help, gifting him her enchanted necklace. She warned him of its power, saying that if the gemstone on it were destroyed, her entire kingdom would collapse. Determined to put an end to the chaos, they marched toward Electric's domain. However, upon arrival, they realized that only the Queen could harness the necklace's magic. As Electric attacked, he shattered the ice, killing all the fish that lived beneath it. Seeing no other choice, Sharkboy dove into the water to confront him, but Electric summoned electric fish to surround and zap her mercilessly. Fearing for Sharkboy's safety, Lava Girl plunged into the water to rescue her. She managed to pull him out, but in doing so, her fire was extinguished, causing her to lose her powers. Just then, Sharkboy resurfaced, his expression shifting when he saw Lava Girl weakened. Knowing he had to act fast, he carried her and sprinted at lightning speed toward the volcano. He knew that the fire inside would help her regain her strength. As he reached the volcano's peak, he threw her into the crater. Moments later, Lava Girl emerged stronger than ever, her body radiating heat more intensely than before. At that exact moment, Max also awakened a new power within himself. He became incredibly fast, empowered and ready. He charged toward Linus, and the two engaged in an epic battle. They unleashed their powers, summoning everything from chocolate and candy to, strangely enough, human skulls. Meanwhile, Sharkboy went after the Electric Master, leading an army of sharks that pulled him into the water. As soon as he fell in, the sharks relentlessly attacked, tearing him apart. At that pivotal moment, Max had a realization. Instead of continuing to fight, he turned to Linus and calmly proposed, "How about we call a truce? Let's be friends, and we'll stop bothering each other. No more bullying, no more fighting. Everyone should have the right to live their dreams, because when you destroy someone else's dream, you also destroy your own, and you end up alone." Linus hesitated for a moment, then agreed. They shook hands, sealing the truce. However, just as they did, Linus lost his balance and slipped off the bridge. As he plummeted, Max instinctively leaped after him, managing to grab him just in time. To their surprise, Linus discovered that there were built-in fans in his wooden bridge shoes, cushioning his fall. At that moment, Sharkboy and Lava Girl arrived, accompanied by the professor who had been bitten by the sharks. He looked at them and said, "So now you're all best friends, full of love and harmony? Fine, I'm heading to Earth, and I'll make sure to destroy every child's dreams. I won't leave a single one untouched." Hearing this, Max immediately followed him, determined to stop him. Just then, we realized that Max had actually been asleep in class, completely lost in a dream, while his teacher was desperately trying to wake him up to get him out of the tornado that had hit the classroom. Max suddenly jolted awake, seeing his teacher shaking him, urging him to move before the tornado got worse. But in the blink of an eye, he found himself waking up again, this time to face the real Electric Master, who had come to Earth with the intent of destroying children's dreams for good. When Max's real teacher saw what was happening, he turned to Max and, with an amused expression, asked, "Why did you make me a villain, kid? I'm the last person who could ever pull that off." Meanwhile, Linus stepped forward and declared, "I'll take on the Electric Master." When the battle began, Linus electrocuted him. A little later, Max went to the teacher's daughter and returned her necklace, telling her, "You're the only one who can use this. With its power, you can freeze anything." And just like that, the truth about the Electric Master was revealed. As soon as she put the necklace on, she gained incredible power and froze the Electric Master solid, completely defeating him. The entire class erupted in cheers as snowflakes began falling, filling the air with excitement. The children ran outside, laughing and celebrating the magical snowfall. From that day on, everyone believed Max's stories, and no one ever teased him again. Sharkboy became the undisputed ruler of the ocean, living among her beloved sharks. Lava Girl made her home among the fiery volcanoes, though she would sometimes walk across the sea, guided by Sharkboy. As for Max, he finally managed to fix Tobar, turning him into a real, fully functioning toy. ensuring that that's the end of the movie. I hope you all had fun. Don't forget to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you never miss a new video. See you.
Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie begins in Free City with a man descending from the sky wearing sunglasses. We learn that in this city, anyone wearing sunglasses possesses superpowers. These individuals don't care about others and do whatever they want because the laws don't apply to them. We see this man shooting at the police and destroying their cars, then casually escaping as no one can do anything to stop them. We are then introduced to an ordinary man named Guy, who wakes up in the morning to start his routine job at the bank. He always wears the same outfit, and despite living in a city full of crime, he loves his city. He buys the same coffee every day and meets his best friend Buddy, who works as a security guard at the bank where Guy is employed. The two witness a robbery in progress but act normally since this happens daily. Guy is always cheerful despite seeing so much crime around him. He believes he has everything in life except for one thing, the love of his life. He thought he'd never find someone he truly loves. Suddenly, criminals break into the bank, and Buddy, the security guard who was supposed to act, simply drops his weapon and lies on the ground with Guy. They chat while waiting for the robbery to end. Guy describes his dream girl to Buddy. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, we meet a woman named Molotov, wearing sunglasses, meaning she's a superhero. She talks to someone about a map she wants, takes it from him, kills him effortlessly, and walks through the city to her next destination. Guy and Buddy finish their work and happen to see Molotov. Guy is mesmerized by her beauty and freezes in place, telling Buddy, "That's my dream girl." Guy decides to approach her, but Buddy tries to stop him, saying, "She's wearing sunglasses. People like her don't talk to ordinary folks." But Guy insists on trying. As he crosses the street, a train hits him and he disappears. We then discover that Free City and this world are just a game played by a girl named Millie, who created the character Molotov to look exactly like her. Millie has to log off the game because the cafe she's in is closing. The next day in the game, Guy wakes up to start his routine, but this time, instead of ordering his usual coffee, he asks for a cappuccino as a change. Everyone around him is surprised and stares at him. Feeling uneasy, he tells the waiter he wants his regular coffee. At the bank, the same gang arrives to rob it again. Guy sees the woman he's infatuated with crossing the street. Buddy reminds him that he tried talking to her yesterday but failed, saying you can't talk to people wearing sunglasses. Guy decides to confront one of the robbers and asks for his sunglasses. A real-life girl is playing as this robber. When Guy tries to take the sunglasses, the robber punches him, knocking him down. But Guy doesn't give up. He manages to kill the robber with their weapon and takes the sunglasses, increasing his chances of talking to Molotov. When Guy puts on the sunglasses, he sees life completely differently, with massive signs and labels everywhere. He notices a first aid kit on the ground, but when he removes the sunglasses, it disappears. Touching the kit heals him completely, including the injury from the robber. He walks around the city to explore this new world and sees a boy who dies in an accident. After the boy's death, the money he had floats in the air, and Guy collects it, surprised to see his bank balance increase. Meanwhile, in the real world, we meet a man named Keys, who works at a company called Tsunami, the creators of Free City. We learn there's a glitch in the game caused by Guy, because Guy is a non-playable character, NPC, and not controlled by any player. Keys tries to access the game's code to delete Guy, but strangely, he can't find Guy on the game's servers. He shares this with his colleague Mouser, who suggests that someone might have hacked the game. However, Keys is certain that's not the case. They decide to enter the game with new characters to talk to Guy. At that moment, Guy is buying new shoes and wants to enter a place Molotov had gone to. Keys and Mouser arrive in a police car and speak to him. asking him to reveal his true identity so they can delete him from the game. Guy doesn't understand their words and they think he's lying. They try to shoot him, but Guy escapes, hiding in a construction site. They follow him there, attempting to kill him. Guy discovers he has a new superpower in his shoes, allowing him to jump 3 times high. He initially struggles to use this power but eventually makes a high jump, landing on top of the building. Keys and Mouser, being game developers, modify the construction site to add stairs for themselves. Guy runs across a suspended bridge, trying to grab a hanging rope but fails and falls. He activates a shock-absorbing ability, creating a bubble, Vanish. The soldiers pursue them, but Alex cleverly uses a car door to defeat one. Kai drives a car to escape, running over another soldier, and she returns to her usual nature, and the humans appear again. After that, Alex sits with Lance and Kay and tells them everything, asking for their help to confront Morgana's attack, and they agree. The next day, Alex and his friends head to the city of Tintagel because he believes Morgana is there, as he saw in the book. Merlin joins them to help find her. After a while, they reach the archaeological site, and Merlin uses magical coffee to open a portal that takes them to the city quickly. There, Merlin creates a sword for each of them and begins training them to defeat Morgana. He casts a spell on a group of trees, causing them to move and engage in a fight with Alex and his friends. The trees then turn black, revealing that Morgana has taken control of them. At that moment, the trees surround them and are about to take them underground when Alex calls for Merlin, who arrives just in time to save them. However, Merlin suddenly collapses, and it becomes clear that using magic drains his strength. He is forced to leave them to regain his power. During this time, Lance takes Alex's sword and tries to leave, but Alex attempts to stop him. Lance attacks him, and they duel with swords. During the fight, Arthur's sword breaks, deeply upsetting Alex. He accuses Lance of being reckless and a failure, expressing regret for trusting him. Lance, hurt by Alex's words, decides to part ways. At this moment, Alex opens the book and learns about the Lady of the Lake, who resides in water bodies and helped King Arthur in his battles. He speaks to her, asking her to restore the sword, and she fulfills his request, returning the sword intact. Lance is shocked by what happens and sincerely apologizes to Alex for breaking the sword. They reconcile and decide to stay united to defeat Morgana. Later, they encounter a team of scouts. The leader of the scouts thinks they are lost, and Alex asks her for their horses, but she refuses. Suddenly, the scouts disappear, confirming to Alex that Morgana is behind it. At that moment, Morgana's soldiers emerge from underground and chase them. The group enters the forest to escape, and Alex manages to take down one of the soldiers. He falls from his horse but captures one of the soldiers and is about to stab him with the sword. However, someone intervenes and saves the soldier's life. Alex realizes that the soldiers are after the person holding the sword. He lures them to a high cliff, causing them all to fall into the water and ultimately perish. Alex and his friends decide to camp there until morning. The next day, Alex wakes up and thrusts his sword into a rock before heading off to find his father's home. He eventually arrives and knocks on the door, where his Aunt Sophie answers. When Alex asks about his father, she tells him that his father was reckless and a failure. She explains that Leah tried to make him a better person but couldn't, and that his father disappeared a year ago, leaving her unaware of his whereabouts. Alex is deeply upset that his father abandoned him and that Leah lied to him, claiming his father was a hero. He leaves the house in tears. He confides in his friends, expressing his desire to abandon the mission, and throws the book into the water. His friends encourage him, reminding him that many innocent lives depend on him. At that moment, Merlin appears with the book in hand, giving it back to Alex and urging him to be a brave warrior who never gives up. The book opens to a specific page, revealing the castle where Morgana resides. Alex decides to go there and finish her off. Later, Alex and his friends visit a toy store, purchase weapons, and head to the castle. When they arrive, they find the place completely empty and are puzzled. Alex thrusts his sword into the ground, opening a door that leads them into a long tunnel. Suddenly, tree branches attack them. Alex manages to escape the tunnel, but the branches trap his friends. At this moment, Morgana appears before him, explaining her plan to destroy the world and mocking him, saying he is just a boy who cannot defeat her. She transforms into a terrifying monster and attacks him. Though initially scared, Alex decides to fight. Using the sword, he successfully strikes her. Morgana writhes in pain and the place begins to collapse. Alex quickly rescues his friends, and they escape. Believing he has defeated Morgana, Alex is overjoyed and throws the sword into the water. He returns home and sees Leah sleeping. He doesn't wake her but reassures her silently, though he remains upset with her for hiding the truth about his father. The next day, Alex wakes up to find tree branches surrounding his house. Merlin arrives and explains that Morgana is still alive because Alex lacks the qualities of a true knight. He tells Alex that knights must be honest, brave, and forgiving of those they love. Alex recalls being upset with Leah and goes to apologize, sharing the truth about the sword. She doesn't believe him until he takes her to the bathroom, fills the tub with water, and speaks to the Lady of the Lake, who retrieves the sword. Leah is shocked and finally believes him. Alex gathers his friends and realizes they have only 6 hours before the solar eclipse, during which Morgana will attack humanity. He decides to seek help from the school students, as Morgana's soldiers will be too numerous to face alone. They arrive at the school, and Alex explains the situation to the students, warning them of the danger. The students agree to fight alongside him. They set traps around the school, and Merlin trains them in sword fighting. As the solar eclipse begins, a massive number of Morgana's soldiers emerge from underground and attack the school. The students use the traps they set, successfully defeating some of the soldiers, and fight bravely. However, the number of soldiers continues to grow. Alex instructs the students to retreat to the school roof. At this moment, Morgana appears, transforming into a giant monster and breathing fire at them. Alex devises a plan, luring Morgana while the students tie ropes around her, immobilizing her. Merlin uses his magical powers to help restrain her. In the final moment, Alex strikes Morgana with the sword, decapitating her and ending her reign. Finally, life returns to normal, and all of Morgana's soldiers vanish. The students are overjoyed that they saved the world. The next day, Alex goes to a lake and throws the sword into it. Merlin speaks to him and explains that his mission is complete and that he will appear to him again if the world ever needs him. The movie ends. I hope you liked it, and if you did, appreciate our effort by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. See you in another movie.
Welcome to Nextflix, your quick stop for movie recaps. Get all the highlights and mind-blowing twists in just minutes. The movie begins with a group of explorers led by Ms. Sophia. We understand that they are in the Pacific Ocean, searching for a rare species of shark named Lilith. Suddenly, they receive an alert on the map that the shark they're looking for is very close to them. Sophia tells them to go and catch it. A group of divers, including Sophia's husband Chris, descends into the ocean. After a while, they are shocked to find a dead baby whale in front of them, but can't understand the cause of its death. Chris approaches the whale and finds bite marks from a shark on its body. Suddenly, a large group of sharks appears, all of them female. We understand that they are the offspring of the giant shark Lilith. Suddenly, Lilith appears in front of them, and everyone is stunned to see her because her size has doubled since the last time they saw her. Sophia contacts Chris and asks him to take a sample to analyze and discover the secret behind her massive size. Indeed, Chris bravely approaches her to take a sample. Lilith attacks him, and the connection between him and Sophia is cut off. Sophia becomes very worried about her husband and decides to descend into the ocean herself to check on him. As soon as she enters the ocean, she's shocked to find her husband's severed arm and no trace of the divers. She realizes that the sharks have killed them all. However, she doesn't give up and continues searching for the shark to take a sample. She finds Lilith in front of her and approaches to take the sample, but the shark attacks her. Sophia dodges it, and fortunately, she gets caught in a net. The shark drags her into the depths of the ocean, but thankfully, she cuts the net before she's pulled under and dies. 3 years pass, and we move to the city of Paris, where we see 2 young men fishing in the Seine River. They are surprised to catch a shell. They report the incident to the police. We understand that the police are used to finding shells in the river from the days of World War II. The press arrives to cover the event, but the police reassure them, saying they can control these shells before they explode. They assure people that the river is safe for fishing. We then move to a whale sanctuary, where Sophia is giving a lecture to a group of young people. She notices a group mocking her, asking where the sample her husband got from the shark is. This upsets Sophia greatly, and she leaves the lecture. However, a girl named Kira stops her and tells her she's a big fan, and has always followed her research since the shark incident. Sophia tells her she stopped doing research after her husband's death and doesn't want to be reminded of those days because it upsets her. She was about to leave, but Kira tells her she discovered that Sophia had implanted a tracking device in Lily's. She used it to locate the shark. Kira takes Sophia to her organization to explain more. We learn that Kira has been running an organization for years to protect marine life. Kira tells Sophia that she's been monitoring Lily's movements for the past 3 years. What Sophia doesn't know is that Lily's is now in the Seine River. Sophia is shocked to hear this because it's impossible for a shark to live in fresh water. Kira explains that climate change and pollution have affected Lily's, causing her to adapt and start living in fresh water. As an organization, their mission is to help her return to the ocean because she could die at any moment. Kira invites Sophia to join her on a mission to locate the shark and return her to her natural habitat. Sophia refuses, saying it's not just an ordinary shark, but the most dangerous one on Earth. She leaves Kira and goes home, where she watches videos of her husband's last mission and cries, feeling guilty because she insisted on the team staying with her, which led to their deaths. Meanwhile, we see Kira with her friend Ben on a boat in the Seine River. Kira asks Ben if she'll join her in diving, but Ben refuses, saying she'll stay to secure the area. Kira dives alone and searches for Lilith everywhere. At the same time, Sophia monitors Lilith's movements and is shocked to find her in the Seine River. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she remembers Kira saying she would dive to locate the shark and decides to head there. Meanwhile, Kira discovers a sunken car in the river and notices marks of a shark attack on it. At that moment, she hears sirens and realizes the police have arrived, which is a problem. She tries to escape but is caught because diving in the river is prohibited. Sophia arrives at the scene and sees Kira being arrested but can't do anything to help her. She spends the entire night by the river, monitoring Lilith's movements through the tracking device implanted in her. The next day, Kira is still at the police station, refusing to explain why she was diving in the river. She jokingly tells the officer that she was taking a swim. The officer, named Adele, insists she won't leave until she tells the truth. She finally says, "I was looking for a shark." Adele responds, "Are you mocking me? A shark in fresh water?" At this moment, we find Sophia still by the river since yesterday, observing the shark's movements. It's clear she's very tense and scared because the shark is extremely close to her. Suddenly, she receives a call from the river company asking her to meet them. She goes to their location and learns that Kira asked them to contact her to prove the shark's existence. Later, the police find a man's body in the river and suspect that he might have been killed by the shark. Sophia is deeply affected by the condition of the corpse and tells them that the shark must have done this. She then goes to the police station and shares with one of the investigators all the information she knows about Lilith. She also warns them that this shark is far more dangerous than they think, as its size is rapidly doubling beyond normal, and they need to assemble a team of experts to help return the shark to its natural habitat. She explains that its presence in the river could kill it at any moment. The investigator responds skeptically, saying she doesn't believe there's a shark in the river and won't make any decisions until she's certain. Sophia agrees, saying it's her right to verify. Later, Sophia, along with Adele and a team of divers, heads to the Seine River to confirm the existence of Lilith. Kira wants to join them on this mission, but the police prevent her due to her young age. However, she doesn't heed their warnings and continues to monitor the shark's movements from a distance. At this point, Sophia and her team manage to locate Lilith using a tracking device. The divers quickly gear up and dive into the river, intending to kill the shark since relocating it to the ocean is too risky. Kira, realizing their intent, rushes to her friend Ben and asks her to disable the tracking system so the divers can't locate the shark. Ben complies and the device is indeed disabled. Meanwhile, the divers are searching for Lilith in the water and begin sensing its movements around them. At that moment, the tracking device malfunctions, leaving them unable to pinpoint its location. They quickly surface before the shark can attack them. Adele is shocked by the sudden failure of the device and accuses Sophia of being behind it, threatening her life if he finds out she was responsible. Sophia, upset by his words, leaves. By chance, she spots Kira watching from a distance and immediately realizes she was the one who disabled the tracker. That night, Adele confides in a colleague, suggesting they close off all access points to the river until they capture the shark. The colleague dismisses the idea, reminding him that a major swimming festival is about to take place in the Seine River, involving the country's top swimmers. The city's mayor refuses to cancel the event, which cost over $1 billion. Feeling defeated, Adele researches Sophia's background and learns about her past, including the loss of her husband and team during her last mission. He feels guilty for his harsh words and regrets hurting her. The next day, Kira records a video discussing the plight of sharks, highlighting how millions are killed annually for cosmetic products and luxury foods. She argues that these creatures have a right to live just like humans and urges young people to join her organization to help return lilies to the ocean. The video goes viral, garnering millions of views and inspiring hundreds of young people to join her cause. Their collective goal is to ensure Lilith reaches the ocean safely. Adele later apologizes to Sophia for his harsh words and promises to arrange a meeting with the city's mayor. Sophia meets the mayor and explains the situation in detail, but the mayor dismisses her concerns, emphasizing the presence of thousands of journalists at the event and the festival's financial significance. Sophia becomes furious, warning that the festival will endanger hundreds of lives if swimmers enter the Seine, as Lilith will attack them. She stresses that Lilith is the strongest shark in the world and uncontrollable. The mayor remains firm, stating the festival won't be cancelled, as the government invested $1.7 billion in it. She orders the police to eliminate the shark before the event. The police, following orders, ask Sophia for help. Sophia proposes a plan to relocate the shark to the ocean, using specific frequencies to lure it and temporarily sedate it for transport, ensuring no harm comes to it. Before the plan is executed, Kira arrives and admits to disabling the tracking system, expressing regret. However, she reveals that Kira has located the shark near the sewage tanks and plans to guide it to the ocean using sonar equipment. Kira also mentions that young activists will be at the sewage site to support her, posing significant danger due to the area's confined space. Sophia reassures her that they'll save her friend. That night, Kira, Ben, and their team gather at the sewage site, preparing for the mission. Ben notices Kira's unease, but attributes it to concern for her safety. Kira enters the water, activates the sonar device, and waits for Lilith to appear. Moments later, Sophia, Adele, and the police arrive, urging her to leave the water. Kira insists on continuing, despite Sophia's warnings about the shark's massive size and the danger posed by the sonar device. At that moment, the shark Lilith appears next to Kira, and strangely enough, a small shark appears beside her. Of course, Sophia immediately understands that this small shark is Lilith's daughter, but Kira gets excited and moves closer to Lilith, touching her and preparing to aim at her with the sonar device. Adele is forced to jump into the water to save Kira. Suddenly, the shark gets angry and attacks Kira, swallowing her. Chaos ensues, and everyone panics at the sight. They start running quickly, but unfortunately, the place is cramped and several people fall. Sadly, Lilith and her daughter kill them, and even Bane falls into the water and is killed. Divers try in every way to save anyone who falls into the water, and they manage to rescue a few, but most end up losing limbs. Some lose an arm, others a leg. They are taken to a hospital in Paris, where Sophia stands in shock, unable to comprehend what happened. She cries, "Poor thing," remembering her husband and her old team. Adele sits beside her and tries to lighten the mood with a few words. After a while, Adele and Sophia are summoned to the sewage area. When they arrive, they find the body of Lilith's daughter. They take it to the lab for Sophia to examine it, hoping to gather some information. Sophia is shocked to discover she is pregnant, even though she hasn't reached full term yet. She's only 2 months along. It turns out that Lilith's species reproduces parthenogenetically, without males, which is a disaster in itself. This means Lilith will continue to multiply endlessly, posing a great threat to humanity. They must eliminate her and her entire species, or she will wipe out humanity. The next day, Sophia and her team go to the mayor's office to report the latest developments. The mayor is upset because they failed the mission, and the festival is only 24 hours away. She demands they find a way to kill the shark. Sophia gets angry and tells her to stop being selfish, accusing her of prioritizing money over people's lives. The mayor retorts, "What's your problem? Get out." She decides to hand over the mission of killing the shark to the military. Later, Sophia and Adele sit in a cafe, and she tells him there will be a massacre if they don't kill Lilith. The crazy mayor intends to hold the festival as scheduled. Adele tells Sophia, "Let's work together and save the world." They agree to cooperate and kill the shark behind the mayor's back. Adele gathers his friends and explains that he needs their help to form a team to kill the shark. His friends agree, and they devise a plan. The first step involves bringing in 2 explosives experts to plant dynamite in the water to kill Lilith. On the day of the festival, we see Sophia, Adele, and the rest of the group diving into the Seine River, heading toward the sharks to plant the bombs themselves. Meanwhile, the mayor inaugurates the festival, unaware of Sophia and Adele's plan. The military is stationed on boats on the river, ready for any shark attack. On the other side, Sophia and her team reach the sharks' gathering spots and are shocked by their numbers, which exceed hundreds. Sophia instructs her team to stay still, as sharks sense threats from human movement. Unfortunately, the festival begins, and we see hundreds of swimmers in the river. Sophia and her team successfully plant bombs in the sharks' locations. After completing the task, they head to the surface to escape before the bombs detonate. Suddenly, a shark attacks and kills 2 team members. Sophia pulls Adele to get out of the river before the bombs explode, but they don't make it in time. The bombs go off, and we see the rest of the team waiting anxiously on the surface. They are terrified for Sophia and Adele, but Sophia manages to pull Adele to the surface. The team helps Adele onto the boat as he is injured. Sophia decides to dive back alone to confirm that Lilith is dead, but she is shocked to find Lilith still alive. She resurfaces and informs the team. Suddenly, Lilith attacks the boat, causing the entire team to fall into the water. She kills 2 more members. Luckily, Adele and Sophia climb back onto the boat. The real disaster begins when they see the shark heading toward the swimmers. They are forced to jump in to stop her, but they fail, as Lilith reaches the swimmers and starts killing them one by one. Chaos spreads everywhere. The military intervenes, firing at Lilith, but they fail to hit her. The bigger problem is that the Seine River is filled with explosives. If a bullet hits one, it will cause massive destruction in the city, and that's exactly what happens. The explosives detonate, destroying the entire city. The explosion causes a massive tsunami that floods the city, and many people fall into the water, including Sophia and Adele. Sophia surfaces and finds Adele unconscious. She pulls him to the nearest safe spot, placing him on a piece of metal floating in the water. After a while, Adele regains consciousness and asks her, "Did we succeed in the mission? The shark is dead, right?" Sophia looks at him with tear-filled eyes, unable to speak. Adele looks around and is shocked to see that the entire city of Paris has sunk, with sharks swimming everywhere. The film ends with this scene. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video.
Hello, Cinemaster lovers. Welcome back. I hope you're ready for an exciting experience because we've got something special for you today. Get comfortable, grab your snacks, and let's dive right into the action. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Let's get started. Our movie begins at the house of a young girl named Jean, who possesses extraordinary powers. Professor Charles from the Mutants organization arrives and tells her that she's not the only one who's different in the world. Suddenly, Jean uses her powers to lift the cars outside. Professor Charles and his friend Eric are amazed, and since Jean is the only one with such unique powers, they suggest she joins their organization. We then move to a scene where a child is in the bathroom, and his father notices he's been there for a while. When the father checks on him, he finds the boy crying because of the wings on his back. The father reassures him and promises to help. We then transition to a scene showing most of the mutant students simulating a training session to fight a robot. Logan, a mutant, appears lighting a cigarette and seeming uninterested in the training. When the trainer, Storm, warns him, he asks his friend to throw him so he can kill the robot. Indeed, he manages to cut off its head, acting on his own. In the organization's corridor, Storm confronts Logan about his actions during the training, telling him they were supposed to work together as a team to defeat the robot. Logan nonchalantly responds, "Leave me alone." We then shift to Scott, who is sitting upset about his beloved's death, reminiscing about the moment she died. Scott wears special glasses because he cannot control the laser beams that shoot from his eyes. When he steps outside, he meets Logan, who asks why he skipped training. Scott replies he was busy, but Logan understands he's still affected by Jean's death. We then move to the mutant minister, who has a strange appearance. His secretary enters to remind him of a meeting. During the meeting, they discuss capturing a hidden mutant fugitive from Magneto's organization. They've already captured Raven, one of Magneto's allies. When they try to interrogate her about Magneto's whereabouts, she transforms her body into other people's forms and suddenly attacks everyone in the room. During the meeting, the president presents the minister with a file containing information about a person whose genes can cure mutants and turn them into normal humans. The president suggests offering the serum to all mutants. We then move to Professor Charles, who is teaching his mutant students when the sky suddenly darkens. He tells them the lesson is over. When he steps outside, he finds Storm as the cause and restores the weather to normal. Storm expresses her frustration that mutants are not standing up for themselves. Professor Charles tells her he's considering making her his successor after he dies. Storm suggests Jean should take the role, but Charles explains Jean has been going through a difficult phase lately and believes Storm is more suitable. The mutant minister, Henry, arrives and informs them that a company has discovered a cure for mutants. He explains the serum comes from the genes of a child who can turn mutants back into humans. The company holds a conference announcing the drug, claiming mutants are essentially humans, but have been affected by a severe genetic disease. Mutants worldwide hear about the conference. Storm, who disagrees with the idea, believes mutants are created for a purpose and questions who would take the serum. Suddenly, Rogue, a mutant, enters and says, "I would." Rogue's motivation for taking the serum is her desire to touch her boyfriend, as her powers prevent her from doing so. This causes a divide among mutants. Some want to take the cure and become human, while others want to remain as they are and prevent anyone from taking the serum. Fearing humans might betray them, capture them, and force the serum on them, a faction forms under Eric, Professor Charles's rival, aiming to dominate the world. Eric gathers a group of mutants and locates the captive Raven. Meanwhile, Henry visits the company that discovered the cure and meets the child whose genes can cure mutants. When Henry shakes the child's hand, he realizes the child can indeed cure him, as his hand turns human again. We then return to Scott, who has arrived at the site where his beloved Jean died. Voices begin to overwhelm his mind, and he hears Jean calling him. Suddenly, a laser beam shoots from his eyes, creating a vortex in the sea. From the vortex, Jean emerges alive, her powers having protected her. She controls Scott's powers, making him remove his glasses. Professor Charles learns of Jean's survival through his abilities and sends Logan and Storm to find Scott. When they reach the lake, they only find Scott's glasses in Jean's unconscious body. They take her back, and Charles explains that Jean's powers created a protective barrier, which is why she survived. He continues to explain that Jean possesses extraordinary powers capable of controlling the entire world but cannot control them herself. He reveals that when she was a child, he tried to help her control her powers and succeeded in suppressing the monster within her. Now he must try to suppress it again. Logan, who has feelings for Jean, disagrees with Charles's approach and asks him not to control her, as she wouldn't like it. Logan then leaves. At the company producing the serum, a large crowd of mutants gathers outside, wanting to become human again. Inside, the scientist who discovered the cure, The father of the boy seen earlier cutting off his wings prepares to administer the serum. However, the boy refuses and escapes, emphasizing the idea that everyone should have the freedom to choose their fate, even mutants. Eric successfully locates a convoy and uses his powers to destroy the cars. Inside, Raven manages to kill the police and free herself. Eric enters and frees the remaining mutants in the convoy. Raven tells Eric the location of the child carrying the serum. A police officer attempts to inject Eric with the serum, but Raven intervenes and takes the hit. Eric abandons her, realizing she's no longer useful to him. We then return to Jean, who regains consciousness. When Logan asks her about Scott and shows her his glasses, she remembers what happened and reveals she destroyed him. She asks him to kill her before she harms anyone else. Logan refuses, but she pushes him, causing him to fall, and approaches the location. He goes to Eric, who knows about Jean's situation, and asks one of the mutants to speak on her behalf. In front of Jean's house, Professor Charles and Eric meet. Eric asks him not to interfere, but they both enter to confront Jean. Professor Charles asks her to come back with him and promises to help her control her powers and prevent her from causing harm. However, Eric tells her he wants to give her the serum to control her. Jean becomes angry and destroys the place. Logan and Storm decide to intervene to help the professor, but Eric's allies stop them. When the professor tries to control Jean's mind using his powers, she resists. Jean unleashes her full strength, disintegrating the professor into particles. Eric tries to stop her, but she freezes time. The professor looks one last time at Logan before dying. Eric then asks Jean, after she regains her composure, to come with him. When Logan arrives, he finds the wheelchair empty and the professor dead. The students isolate themselves in grief and sadness. At night, one of the mutants gathers her belongings and sees her lover with another girl. Because her ice powers prevent her from touching him, she decides to take the serum and return to being human. When Logan finds out, he lets her make her own decision. The next day, Logan and his friends gather, mourning the professor's death. Storm decides to take his place and organize matters. Meanwhile, a protest by mutants refusing to take the serum takes place outside the company producing the cure. Suddenly, the protest turns into an attack, and one of the mutants sets the police station on fire. Eric appears on television, delivering a speech threatening the company to hand over the child carrying the cure's genes so they can kill him. The military begins preparing for battle. In the forest, Logan tries to escape Eric's men and defend himself. He decides to meet John and convince her to return with him. When John senses him and sees him, she steps away from the rebellion. Logan calls out to her, but Eric appears and prevents him from approaching, claiming that Jean is there of her own free will. Logan returns to the organization and forms a team to face Eric. Despite their small numbers, they decide to sacrifice themselves to protect the world. Eric and his followers arrive at their destination and begin their attack, dismantling the metal bridge and connecting it to the island where the child is held. The military attacks, but Eric stops their weapons, which are made of plastic. The army manages to throw the serum at the mutants, but Eric blocks them. He orders one of the mutants to use sound waves to destroy the soldiers' weapons. Logan, Storm, and the rest of the team arrive to confront Eric and his allies. The mutants attempt to reach the child carrying the cure. One mutant succeeds but cannot use her powers on him. A rocky mutant tries to destroy them but crashes into a wall. We switch to the mutants, who are about to kill the inventor of the cure. They knock him down, but his son arrives just in time and saves him. Storm manages to strike the girl with her power, and Eric and one of the mutants use their powers to hurl cars, trapping them. Another mutant emerges and uses his icy powers to block the fire. Jean stands watching silently. The Iceman manages to defeat the fireman. Eric captures Logan, but Henry appears from behind and injects Eric with the serum, causing him to lose his powers. Eric asks Jean to use her powers, but she seems calm and on the verge of joining them. Suddenly, soldiers fire at her, turning her into a demon-like state. She uses her powers to destroy the soldiers, losing control and nearly destroying the entire world. Eric looks at her in shock and flees. Logan asks Storm to leave the area, saying he has a plan. He approaches Jean, who is destroying everything around her. She asks Logan if he is willing to die for them. Logan responds that he would die for her. Jean regains her consciousness briefly, and Logan stabs her, stopping her powers. Logan cries because he loved her. Jean is buried next to her lover, Scott, and the professor. The mutant Rog, who took the serum, returns to her lover and is able to touch him. The organization reopens, and the president announces that humans and mutants are equal, and taking the serum is a personal choice. Logan is shown reflecting on the events. In the final scene, Eric is seen moving a chess piece with his powers, and here the movie ends. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates. See you in the